Page 20 of Chapter 2. He let go of the mic. His voice was starting to rattle, and he felt as if he might start screaming at any second. He took a deep breath. "If there's anybody listening who can help me fly a plane, please answer." Again he released the mic, but heard nothing but the hissing of noise in the headset. After half an hour of listening and repeating the cry for help, he tore the headset off in frustration, threw it to the floor. It all seemed so hopeless. Even if he did get somebody, what could anybody do? Tell him to be careful? All so hopeless. He tried to figure out the dials again. He thought he might know which was speed. It was lighted number that read 160. But he didn't know if that was actual miles an hour or kilometers, or if it just meant how fast the plane was moving through the air and not over the ground. He knew airspeed was different from ground speed, but not by how much. Parts of books he'd read about flying came to him, how wings worked, how the propeller pulled the plane through the sky, simple things that wouldn't help him now. Nothing could help him now. An hour passed, and he picked up the headset and tried again. It was, he knew in the end, all he had. But there was no answer. He felt like a prisoner kept in a small cell that was hurtling through the sky at what he thought to be 160 miles an hour. Headed, he didn't know where, just headed somewhere until... There it was. Until what? Until he ran out of fuel? When the plane ran out of fuel, it would go down. Period. Or he could pull the throttle out and make it go down now. He had seen the pilot push the throttle in to increase speed. If he pulled the throttle back, the engine would slow down and the plane would go down. Those were his choices. He could wait for the plane to run out of gas and fall, or he could push the throttle in and make it happen sooner. If he waited for the plane to run out of fuel, he would go farther, but he did not know which way he was moving. When the pilot had jerked, he had moved the plane, but Brian could not remember how much or if it had come back to its original course, since he did not know the original course anyways, and could only guess at which display might be the compass. The one reading 342. He did not know where he had been or where he was going, so it didn't make much difference if he went down now or waited. Everything in him rebelled against stopping the engine and falling now. He had a vague feeling that he was wrong to keep heading as the plane was heading, a feeling that he might be going off in the wrong direction, but he could not bring himself to stop the engine and fall. Now he was safe, or safer than if he went down. The plane was flying. He was still breathing. When the engine stopped, he would go down. So he left the plane running, holding altitude, and kept trying the radio. He worked out a system. Every 10 minutes, by the small clock built in the dashboard, he tried to radio with a simple message. "I need help. Is there anybody listening to me?" In the times between transmissions, he tried to prepare himself for what he knew was coming. When he ran out of fuel, the plane would start to go down. He guessed that without the propeller pulling, he would have to push the nose down to keep the plane flying. He thought he might have read that somewhere, or it just came to him. Either way, it made sense. He would have to push the nose down to keep flying speed, and then just before he hit, he would have to pull the nose back up and slow the plane as much as possible. It all made sense. Glide down, then slow the plane, and hit. Hit. He would have to find a clearing as he went down. The problem was that he hadn't seen one clearing since they started flying over the forest. Some swamps, but they had trees scattered through them. No roads, no trails, no clearings. Just the lakes, and it came to him that he would have to use the lake for landing. If he went down in the trees, it was certain to die. The trees would tear the plane to pieces, and it went into them. He would have to come down in a lake. No, on the edge of a lake. He would have to come down near the edge of a lake and try to slow the plane as much as possible just before he hit the water. Easy to say, he thought, hard to do. Easy say, hard do. Easy say, hard do. It became a chant that beat with the engine. Easy say, hard do. Impossible do. He repeated the radio call 17 times at 10-minute intervals, working on what he would do between transmissions. Once more he reached over the pilot and touched him on the face, but the skin was cold, hard, cold, death cold, and Brian turned back to the dashboard. He did what he could, tightened his seatbelt, positioned himself, rehearsed mentally again and again what his procedure should be. When the plane ran out of gas, he should hold the nose down and head for the nearest lake and try to fly onto the water. That's how he thought of it. Kind of fly the plane onto the water, and just before it hit, he should pull it back up the wheel and slow the plane to reduce the impact. Over and over, his mind ran the picture of how it would go, the plane running out of gas, flying the plane onto the water, the crash from pictures he'd seen on television. He tried to visualize it. He tried to be ready. But between the 17th and 18th radio transmission, without a warning, the engine coughed, roared violently for a second, and died, and there was a sudden silence, cut only by the sound of the wind-milling propeller and the wind past the cockpit. Brian pushed the nose of the plane down and threw up.